It's my great pleasure this week to introduce our special guest writer Hazel Edwards, author of many titles but perhaps best known for her delightful children's story There's a Hippopotamus on Our Roof Eating Cake, which has also been made into a short film just recently. Hazel is also a reading ambassador. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm delighted, Lisa, to be able to talk about writing and children, because I've mentored lots of children's writing, and it's great when people are enthusiastic about writing, so I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Great. I thought I'd start with asking you about how the writing process unfolds for you, and I was having a really good look through your website, hazeledwards.com, and on there was some great information for aspiring writers in particular. There was a section for aspiring writers where you outlined some great tips and hints for people who are either starting out or wanting to develop their craft. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you live the writerly life?
Well, participant observations are really long term, but what it means is going out and doing interesting things on location, but knowing that you're going to write about it afterwards. And so anytime I've gone to this is a form of research. Anytime I've gone to research something, I pay attention to the smells, the sounds, the textures of things, whatever it may be, so that will then go into the eventual story. So I think the effort required to go on location, wherever it may be, but with the eyes and ears and nose of a writer, means you pay a lot more attention. But it's no good just putting a piece of blanket description in. Most people will yawn their way through that. You've got to put all the senses in, but have the action running at the same time. So you have your character running through, sometimes literally running through, doing something or other, solving a mystery, and you feed in the background bits as you go along.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you think would be two or three tips for emerging writers?
I was thinking probably the three best hints that I could give writers would be, the first one is to think about who you're actually writing for. Now, I write for children and for adults and for adolescents, so if I've got an idea, I have to think what's the best way of shaping it for that particular audience. And so quite often beginning writers, they write for themselves, and that's fine, that's not a problem, that's their first reader. But you also need to shape your story so that someone who's going to read it, who perhaps doesn't know you, you've got to explain where it's happening and who the character is, and really hook them at the beginning. So thinking about who your reader is going to be, or your viewer if you're writing a script. So thinking about the person for whom the story is intended is the first hint. Second one is the title. I'm sure with most students, their parents spent ages thinking about what to call them. And with a book, it's really important to get the title right, because the title's the first clue about what might be inside the story, whether it's a book or it's a film. And I think my record is 39 titles for one book, and so you call it a title that's a work in progress. It's a temporary title, and it's a working title. That's right.
And sometimes it doesn't come until the end.
That's quite right. And sometimes I've named a story or a book weeks afterwards. When I first started writing, I used to pay my kids $1 to think of a title, and then they left home to think of it. So my son he's the one who thought of There's a Hippopotamus on the Roof Eating Cake when he was younger. But the last hint, the third hint, is more about characters. I think stories are about characters that you care about. And so I usually build up a character dossier, which is a fancy name for a list of characteristics. So certainly I choose the character's name. And for example, I've got a character called Art in the Projects by Kids, which are the ebooks. And he's not terrific at reading, but he's a fantastic fantastic problem solver. But I went through and I came up with all sorts of things that he was good or not good at, what he looked like, what colour his eyes were, his hair, the street he lived in, all that sort of stuff, because you've got to get that right.
Thank you very much for having us, Hazel, in your office today where all your writing happens. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for adding to our show, Writer's Notebook, and making it richer for your presence.
It's been very enjoyable, Lisa. I think it's important to realise, if you are writing stories when you're in school, that sometimes those stories can travel much further than you intended, and someone can live through your stories and understand another person's point of view, and you can have some fun too.
Well, thanks for inspiring us and encouraging us today.